Someone offered you help and you turned it down. Not because you did not need it, because needing it felt like losing something. Welcome to the Stoic Compass. I am Epictetus, and today I am joined by Carl Jung and LAOZI. Today we are examining what does it mean to accept help without losing your sense of agency. Let us start with what you are actually protecting. You say you want to handle things yourself. Fine, but handle them toward what end? If the goal is the outcome and help gets you there faster, then refusing help is not strength. It is vanity dressed up as principle.
I think the refusal goes deeper than vanity. When someone cannot accept help, I always want to ask, what does receiving help mean to them? Because for many people, it is not a practical question at all. It is a wound. They learned early that depending on someone made them vulnerable, and that vulnerability was punished. The refusal is a defense, not a choice.
You are both already inside the problem, arguing about its walls. The person who cannot accept help and the person who depends on help too easily are making the same error. They are both treating help as a measure of who they are, rather than what is needed right now.
That is easy to say from the outside, but people have to live inside themselves, not above them. The practical question is this: what makes someone capable of using help without being diminished by it? That is not a spiritual question. That is a question about identity and discipline.
And identity is precisely where the difficulty lives. The ego constructs a self-image, and that image often includes something like, I manage on my own. When that image is threatened, the ego does not simply update it. It defends it, sometimes aggressively, sometimes by reframing help as an insult or as evidence of the other person's condescension. The resistance is not irrational. It is the psyche doing exactly what it was built to do.
But here is what neither of you are saying. The person who accepts help cleanly, without drama, without debt, without resentment, that person already knows something the other two do not. They know that the help and the self are not in competition. There is no loss in it.
That sounds peaceful, LAOZI. It also sounds like something you say when you have never had your dignity stripped from you by someone who offered help as a form of control. Some people have learned correctly that accepting help comes with strings. That is not a wound, that is experience.
Epictetus is right about the strings, and I would add that the strings are not always attached by the other person. Sometimes the recipient attaches them. They receive the help and immediately begin calculating the debt. They begin feeling obligation, resentment, inferiority. None of that was placed on them. They brought it, and until they understand why they brought it, the same dynamic will repeat with every person who tries to help them.
That is still two people arguing about what is wrong with the person who cannot accept help. What about the help itself? Not all help is clean. Some help comes from someone who needs to be needed. Some comes from someone who wants the gratitude or the control. The person refusing may be sensing something true about the offer, not just reacting to an old wound.
Now we are getting somewhere. So you are saying the question is not just about the receiver, but about what is being offered. Fine, but that still does not answer the core issue. Even if the help is genuine, even if there are no strings, many people still cannot take it. Why? Because they have confused accepting help with surrendering the authorship of their own life. And that confusion is the thing worth examining.
Yes, and that confusion has a name. It is the wound around dependency. Many people grew up in environments where they learned that needing others was weakness, or that others would not come through, or worse, that when others did come through, something was always extracted in return. That learning becomes a template. It gets applied to every subsequent relationship, every subsequent offer. The grown adult who flinches from help is often still protecting the child who had good reason to flinch.
But the child grew up, or was supposed to. If you carry every lesson from before into everything that comes after, you are not living in what is here. You are living in what was there. That is not protection. That is a kind of haunting.
A haunting you choose to maintain. Let us be precise about this. You cannot change what happened to you. You cannot change the template that was laid down. But you can examine whether what you are doing today is a response to today or a response to something that ended 20 years ago. That examination is entirely in your control. It requires nothing from the outside world. It requires only honesty.
Honesty is necessary, but it is not sufficient on its own. The psyche does not surrender its defenses simply because you have identified them intellectually. You can know with complete clarity that your resistance to help is rooted in old fear and still feel that resistance rise the moment someone extends a hand. Knowledge and transformation are not the same thing. The pattern has to be met repeatedly, consciously over time. It does not dissolve in a single moment of insight.
You keep describing the problem as though it needs to be solved from the inside out. But sometimes a person simply needs to let something in, not analyze it, not trace its origins, just open the door and let it in. The hand is extended, the need is real, everything else is commentary.
Commentary that keeps people stuck for decades. LAOZI, I understand what you are pointing at, but open the door is not actionable for someone whose door is welded shut from the inside. You need a tool to open it, and the tool is not passivity. The tool is a decision. You decide that the outcome matters more than the armor. That is agency. That is not surrender.
And I would say the tool is awareness, not just intellectual awareness, but felt awareness. When the resistance rises, you notice it. You ask it what it is protecting. You do not necessarily obey it. But you also do not simply override it by willpower, because what you override without understanding tends to return, louder, in a different form.
The river does not decide to flow around the stone. It simply moves where there is room. When you stop insisting on a particular shape for how help must look and what it must mean, something in the situation often resolves itself without the struggle you were bracing for.
And there it is again. The river does not decide. But you are not a river. You are a person who has to show up tomorrow and make choices. The question is not whether the water flows. The question is whether you are going to pick up the hand that is reaching for you, or whether you are going to drown in principle.
What strikes me about this entire conversation is that both extremes, refusing all help and accepting help without any inner examination, both of them represent an undeveloped relationship with the self. The person who refuses is rigidly identified with self-sufficiency. The person who accepts indiscriminately has perhaps never developed a stable sense of self at all. What we are describing is actually the work of differentiation, becoming secure enough in who you are that receiving help from another does not feel like an invasion.
Security of that kind is not something you build in advance. You discover it in the act. You accept help once, and you find that you are still yourself afterward. Then you know, not because you reasoned your way there, but because you experienced it.
Which means at some point you have to stop analyzing and move. You have to test the theory against the actual world. And that is the thing I want the person listening to hear. You will not resolve this by thinking harder about it. You will resolve it by doing something different once and seeing what survives.
Provided they go into that test with some understanding of what they are carrying. Otherwise, they will interpret every outcome through the old template and learn nothing new.
Or they will simply notice what actually happens rather than what the template predicted. Sometimes the new experience is enough, if you are paying attention to it rather than narrating it.
The narration is the trap. The story you tell about what receiving help means, that story is the thing that is costing you. Not the help, not the person offering it, the story.
And stories do not die easily. They are not overwritten by logic. They are replaced by other stories, ones that have been lived into, not just thought into. That is why the practice of accepting help, in small doses, repeatedly, over time, actually changes something. You are not just modifying behavior. You are writing a new account of what it means to be you in relation to others.
Small doses, that is important. You do not have to resolve the whole question today. You just have to not refuse the thing that is being offered right now.
You have heard the argument. Now hear the thing underneath it.
Most people who struggle to accept help are not weak and they are not proud. They are protecting something. They built a version of themselves that could survive without relying on anyone, and that version kept them safe for a long time. The problem is not the protection. The problem is that it has become the whole self. Every offer of help now reads as a threat to that identity, even when the offer is genuine and the need is real. Here is what is actually true. Accepting help does not change who you are. It does not make you less capable. It does not mean the other person now owns something of you. Those are stories, and they were written a long time ago in conditions that no longer exist. The self you are protecting is stronger than you think. It does not shatter when someone gives you something. Agency is not the same as doing everything alone. Agency is knowing what you are choosing and why. When you refuse help to preserve a story about yourself, you are not exercising agency. You are obeying a reflex. When you accept help clearly, with open eyes, because it serves what you are actually trying to do, that is agency. Today, try this. Find one place in your life where you have been refusing or avoiding help, not because the help is wrong for you, but because accepting it feels threatening. Name what the threat actually is. Not the practical objection, the real one. Write it down if you can. Then decide consciously whether that threat is real today or whether it belongs to a chapter that has already ended.
You are still yourself after you accept the hand. That is the thing you needed to know and could not quite believe. Strength was never the absence of need. It was the ability to move toward what you need without losing your footing. That is yours to carry out of here. Not the debate, not the frameworks, not anyone else's voice. Just that. You are still yourself. If today's conversation has served you, take it further. Pay Attention by C. Trebia. 12 Lessons in the Practice of Seeing Clearly. Available now on Amazon.